You're recording this to the cloud, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
We can start.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining in for the Wednesday Wisdoms episode 10. But when it comes to our panel discussion, this is episode 2. We had a episode 1 last Wednesday, and this is our second episode for panel discussion. What we had done is we had sent out a form asking members to nominate themselves to be moderator. Though we chose the topic and the panelists, we wanted members to come forward and we wanted to present them with a bigger audience to do their project, which is in elective level 5. A panel discussion is like a project that they need to complete. So we are allowing them or inviting them to rather do this project for Wednesday Wisdom. And they will also get evaluated once this is done today itself, right after the panel discussion. So I will not be introducing the panelists. I will definitely be introducing a moderator. Now, who is our moderator for today? A multifaceted professional with over 30 years of experience with multinational and family-owned groups in both India and Middle East. He's now a career coach with an emphasis on guiding young and aspiring professionals in honing their communication skills and developing their personal brand. His tailor-made processes have been trusted by over 100 people in refining their communication skills. He has won many club and area level prizes at Toastmasters. Please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster Shaukat Lokhandwala. Over to you.
Thank you, DTM Sunita Vinod. I couldn't have given the introduction better if I'd sent it to you. So thank you very much for joining in and for hosting us and starting off this meeting. Today we have episode 2, and basically what we have is something which I call is speech writing anxiety. What to write, how to write, and finally how to deliver the same is one of the most common issues that we all face. In fact, some of my mentees procrastinate over writing the speeches so long that they often have a sleepless night just before the meeting starts and finish the same. Well, today, fear not, because with us we have 2 wonderful, talented, and knowledgeable speakers who have been there, done that, and have become successful communicators. So the first one we have is DTM Pinky Barus, who always wears her name on her sleeve, literally. Look at this. She's wearing a super pink coat, and it just stands out like the person she is. She's an always smiling, cheerful, and vivacious person. Her achievements in a short period have made her legendary in our community. She's a soft skills trainer, a TEDx speaker, and a head coach for different TEDx events. She's a LinkedIn soft skills trainer, a motivational speaker, and an author of a best-selling book. And of course, has won district level awards for evaluation, storytelling, and humorous speech contests. In fact, just I think a week back, she attended a contest on evaluation, and she got a prize out there. She got an award there. When I talked to her, she says, I just love attending TM contests. So I'm really looking forward to hearing her enrich us with her experiences today. And then we have DTM Ganesh Iyer. Now, he is a completely different kettle of fish. He has built up rich experience over 10 years in a Toastmaster fraternity. And during this time, he has become the district champion in international speech as well as the humorous speech competition. And let me tell you, that's a big thing. That's a real big thing. He's also a well-acclaimed stand-up comedian, a small fact that I didn't know till recently, and it just came up in a side conversation. But actually, on a personal level, I have seen him to be an extremely humble and private person who doesn't actually speak about his achievements, but lets his mature thoughts and processes and his insights speak for his personality. Let's welcome Toastmaster Ganesh Iyer, who is also the 2 panelists who are on with us. So Before we delve into the thoughts and see how we can become better speech writers and communicators, do also note that we'll be having a question answer session after the panel discussion. And at the end, I would request you to please write your queries on the chat itself, because we'll try to look at it based on the time we have and the type of questions that are there. At all times, I would request our viewers to please keep their videos on and sound muted so that we can have a more interactive participation. And you know that all of us and panelists love to see you all in front of us. So if you keep yourself hidden, that's not fair. We are showing ourselves. Please do show yourselves too. All right, so now let's go and let's dive in directly into what we want to start. So Pinky, let's start with you. The ladies first thing works here. For speakers
Yeah.
just starting their Toastmaster journey, what advice would you give them on selecting a topic?
All right. Now that's a wonderful question. First of all, speakers starting their journey, it takes courage to start your journey, and congratulations that you have already started. Now, what can you think consider related to selecting the topics? First of all, know your interest. Know your strengths. Know your experience. Know what experience you have in life and what can you share with your audience. Is your interest, is your expertise, is your experience audience relevance? If you are new, do not worry about it in the beginning, because gradually, trust me, you will learn how to bring it to audience relevance. In the beginning, just consider what your interest is. Now, if I have to give you some example related to audience relevance also, for example, we all love speaking. That is the reason we are here. Most of us love leading also. Now, if we go to any corporate, or if it's a corporate club, we go to any corporate. If you talk about public speaking, would all be related? Like, would all be connected? Not sure. But if you twist it a bit, and in your public speaking, you tell them how public speaking can help them related to giving their presentations, related to impromptu speaking, related to pitching, they will connect. For example, I was talking about interest. Now, what if your interest is passion? You love speaking about passion. You are a passion icon. You take care of fashion. You take care of how you look. What do you do then? How can you speak about that in Toastmasters? Well, that is something I believe which gives you confidence. Speak about that. If that can give you confidence, ask us, hey, find out what gives you confidence. That is how each and every topic of your interest can be connected. For example, if I talk about myself, I am someone who loves storytelling. So whether it's anything, even if it's theoretical, even if it's impromptu speaking, I bring in and share the anecdotes, the stories. Coming to understanding now, what we were talking about audience relevance also. What if you don't know the audience? You are going to another Toastmasters club, you are new. What do you do then? You know your topic. Be specific, see how you can generalize it. Sometimes the names of the club give you the hint, hey, what might be their interest. We have Readers and Debaters Club. We have Charismatic Speakers Toastmasters Club. So many clubs we have. The name itself can sometimes give you the hint what would be the interest. Speak to Vice President Education that, hey, tell me something about the club. Check the social media page of the club. That will help you know about the club. That will help you know about the audience, and that will give you comfort. So that's all I'd like to say, that it all lies in your interest, expertise, and experience. Over to you.
Absolutely true, Pinky. I think you hit the nail on the head in this, that if you say what you want, what your interests are, you'll always be able to get a topic and say well. That's great. And that's great for all of us out here. But Ganesh, I would like to ask you, because you've been a contestant and you've been a great contestant. So, what would you say? How would, as a contest participator, be giving your selecting a topic?
Thank you so much, Shaukat. First of all, am I audible, everyone?
Perfect.
Yes. All right. So when it comes to contests, it's a different ball game. So I'm going to make a couple of points, and those of you who are interested contestants can make a note of it. First of all, in any contest, let us take ISE for example. You have 10 speakers. And what do those speakers speak about? Motivation. Now, how can you be different? Because at the end of fifth, the crowd's motivation would go away. To listen to the audience or motivated to do anything in life, right? So you have to be memorable. That is the first thing that you have to keep in mind. Because I have been a part of so many contests in the past 10 years that people after the fourth speaker get tired. And those of you who have attended contests would also know that you feel you just want to get out and walk away, but because of rules and regulations, you can't do that. But there will always be a speaker who comes up with something different. So you have to choose a memorable topic. Now, what are the ways by which you can choose a memorable topic? I'm going to give you my example. I chose the topic Be a Player. Okay. None of you would remember the speech, but you would remember the tagline Be a Player. Now, this was taught by one of the world championships, Craig Valentine. He told that it is very important to have a power statement. Okay. It's not about being great, but it is about starting. This is a great power statement. Something that is memorable. Just do it is a great example. So if you are preparing for contest, one great thing that you can keep in mind is number one, have a tagline. First of all, be different or do something that is slightly different. Then what are the ways you have to think of a tagline? Can you come up with a prop that is memorable so that wakes the audience up? Because maybe the first speaker would find it easy, but after that it would become difficult. So maybe you can have a prop, maybe you can have a different story. Or what did I do this time? I gave a speech on being pessimistic. All right. We all speak about being optimistic. I told that the glass is half empty and we have to be pessimistic. A lot of people are smiling, which means that this talk might be memorable, right? So these are some things that you can try. Okay, for that, what you need to do. Okay, now if you are starting out, if you're if you're a Toastmaster who's maybe 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, go and try out everything. Okay, don't think of winning, just thinking of participating. But once you have crossed the third or the fourth, or you have that urge of winning, then you have to do a lot of research. Look at a lot of international speeches, look at a lot of stand-up comedians, look at a lot of speakers. How do they present their content? Because we are in the world of content, right? Every person has a podcast, every person is a motivation speaker. What are some people do different to stand out? So this is something that I have to say. If you are a contestant, think about being memorable. Over to you.
I think you really summarized it very well. Being memorable is what it's all about, because everyone needs to have that. And I've seen that happen very often, that people start off with a speech title which doesn't actually match what they're doing, and that really doesn't enthrall the audience. But how exactly, Ganesh, do you think that they get source or inspiration for the topic?
Okay. So source is all around, right? Now, I'm not boasting or I'm not being humble. It is just a fact. I've been a Toastmaster for 10 years. So I'll just tell you my process, right? So I took a break from Toastmasters and I was part of a lot of open mics. So the open mic audience is completely different from Toastmasters. Now, Toastmasters, people listen to you, people take notes. But in an open mic, you have people who are stand-up comedians, who are musicians, who are poets, who are completely different. Now, they don't listen to you. So what I also, so I made a goal for myself, which I still follow, that every week I have to write something new and deliver it. Okay, so I'll just give you a couple of examples of what I did. So number one, this is a great example of the glass being half full. That is one thing I spoke about. Then once I spoke about a story of bicycle, okay, how I learned the bicycle. Then I took myself on a completely different tangent. I had a quote from the Bhagavad Gita. I spoke about that. Then I spoke about World War II, right? So every week I try out something different. And where did I gain information? You watch a lot of YouTube, you watch a lot of Netflix, you can come up with something. I also gave a talk on Jack the Ripper. So if you know, it's a serial killer from from ancient London, not ancient London, the 1853. So every week I try out something. So once I tried out stand-up comedy. I made fun about my college. So every week I try out something different. Okay, and that has really helped. And over a period of the last 5 years, I think I would have 100 pieces of content, and I can still write many more because you have to do that, right? You have to make it a point to write every week and do that. So that's how sources of information are everywhere. So you don't have to look. The sources of information would find you. So I gave my process. So I hope this would be useful, and each person has to try out a different topic, maybe a week or bi-weekly, because a lot of Toastmasters, after a period of time, they say that they don't have time and they give a speech. They think they are Amir Khan and give a speech once a year. So if you try out stuff like that, then it's going to be very difficult. So I'm just going to take 30 seconds. All right. I'm just going to give you process of stand-up comedians. Okay. Now, you all have seen stand-up comedy. A good stand-up comedy piece is for 45 minutes. Now that 45 minutes takes a year to get nourished or to grow. So they do that every week. And Veer Das, I think I spoke about Veer Das. I think most of you know he won the Emmy. For his talk called The Landing. He had given that talk more than 100 times. Okay. And you got to do it, right? There's no excuse, or you don't need anyone to tell you where are the sources of information. It is everywhere.
Yeah.
Over to you, Shaukat.
Thanks, Ganesh. I think you said correctly on this, that inspiration is all around. In fact, I remember a case when it happened that I was on a bike, sitting on a bike, and I was looking up at a building, and on the 10th floor, I was seeing, you have the grills outside the room, outside the houses, on the 10th floor of a building. So I was just thinking, are we keeping people out, or are we keeping ourselves in?
Wow.
And you just take that and you can make actually a full speech about it. So
Absolutely.
it's just keeping your mind open, I guess, as you said, and you look around and you can have speeches all about it, right? And you can talk
Absolutely.
about, like, say, how Pinky is always looking pink in the pink of health, and go forward from there.
True.
So I think that's very interesting, and that we can do. So I one question which a lot of people ask me, and I find it interesting, and I want both of your comments to it. And they say that, do you first write a speech and then tweak it to the objectives, or do you look at the objectives first and then decide your speech? Who's going to take that? Come on. Pinky, you go first. Come on.
For me, it's always story first. Now, how I can tweak the story, fit it into the object, that I leave it to me. But for me, it's always the story which I want to share. What message do I get out of it? And yes, for me, it's always like that. Story, that's it.
Ganesh?
So I would concur with Pinky. So you can't keep the objective in mind and write a talk, because this is a creative field, right? Writing, art is creative. You can't fix it in a box, but we are in pathways right now. So we have to follow that path. And I think there are many talks which have specific objectives. So I think it depends. If in pathways, I think you have to follow pathways. So if you're giving a talk elsewhere, then I think objectives matter. So I would say objectives matter. Even though I don't follow that, objectives matter.
So I will straddle both of you, and I'll say that in the first few speeches that we give, which are more generic in nature, I tend to feel that, create your speech and then change it. For instance, if you have something on body language, you create a speech on cricket and then you go like this and you say that, put the body language in it. And if you have on vocal variety, you can say, and he said he was out and he went down. So you have your story and then tweak it. So I think you can do both ways. But as you rightly said, as you go deeper into the pathways, you got to be more specific and objective oriented.
Yes.
And go for it. So yeah, that's a great take which you had on that. Yeah. Moving into a speech itself, there's always been a thought that we should add creativity in the speech. Whether by way of motions or movements. There's a perception that we tend to become more dramatic. So Ganesh, how would you distinguish between drama and creativity in a speech?
Now, I'm not a fan of drama, right?
Only
We
of stand-up comedy, yeah. And that's not drama, yeah. Okay.
Yes. So it's very interesting. Okay, there are different types of talk. I'll just take 30 seconds for this. Number one, I feel that the person should speak. He should not use props. He should not use something additional which causes disturbance to the communicator and the audience. The message should go right in the audience. That should be the primary point. Okay. Now, if maybe a prop helps you out, it is good. Maybe a single prop. Ideally, in my opinion, the speech should be absolutely simple. Add a little bit of humor. Vocal variety should be, no one yells and speaks, right? I've never seen anybody saying, you just gave an example. I know it is for vocal variety, but in real life, we do not do that, or we do not be over dramatic and speak anywhere. So why do we go on stage and do that? It becomes so jarring, it becomes so loud that the focus is on the hand movement rather than the talk. And that is a strict no-no. So in my opinion, you do that. However, if you are a talented actor, then you can try something out. So in my opinion, be absolutely straight, be absolutely vanilla. Let your words speak and create an impact on the audience. So that's my take.
I think definitely it makes sense to do that. But do you really think plain vanilla is the way to go? What do you think, Pinky? I know you add so much creativity to your speeches. So share that. Come on, tell us something about that.
So for this reason, like creativity, first of all, we have to understand why being creative. So for me, it's two things. First of all, if I'm creative, I make sure that I don't kill the curiosity in my speech. That is the first aim I have in my mind. That okay, and then something happened which changed my life, and now everybody knows. Okay, now it's going to change. So it was bad. Now it's going to no. So be creative. See how you can just tell without killing the curiosity. Second thing, being creative is that how you can use your strength. For example, my strength, I've heard from others, my strength is my facial expressions and my voice. So I use that creatively. So two things, not to kill curiosity and using your strength. If I have to give examples, other examples also, you can also play with words. For example, in my Kahani speech, I had said, and I became his left hand. Now, the idiom is you become right hand on someone when, someone depends on you, or, they strongly look up to you, or, like you are strongly supporting them. They're helping them in their work. But I said I became the left hand. Why? Because my manager was a lefty. So that was kind of being creative in playing with the words. For example, if you look at world champion public speaking this year, Nisha Shivram, how wonderfully you used the analogy by being creative. Swipe. Whenever you say swipe, okay, help others. Aaron Beverly, world championship, he used his dress, creativity. That I believe was creativity. How he's using his things. My car, again, world champion. How creatively he has used his screen. When I first saw that speech, I never thought, okay, this is also the way you can he's coming from here, he's coming from there, he's hiding the screen, what all he's doing. So all that is creativity. Creativity in opening, like Mohammad Katani did. Like, for example, in my club, opening in Toastmasters Club of Baroda, Dawal, a fellow member, he started a speech. I was smiling. Like, I have that habit of smiling. He said, Pinky, you are smiling? You're smiling on me? And he just left the stage. And I was like, oh my God, what happened? What did I do? But no, that was a part of his speech. So you can use creativity in opening or even in delivery. For example, if you remember Darren, the world champion Darren, he just fell. And I was like around a minute he was on the floor. So creativity can be used, but one thing you have to make sure, you should be comfortable doing it. Don't copy anyone. Do what you are comfortable doing it. So
Yeah.
that's my take on that.
True. Makes a lot of sense what you said. And I can see how creativity works with you because you always look that way and you always speak in that manner, which shows that you're creative. That's great. And transitions in speeches is something also that we always talk about, let it flow, how it goes. So what do you think about it, Ganesh? How important do you think transitions are and how it actually affects the flow of speeches?
All right. Can I just take 30 seconds for the previous talk because this is something I really like and I'll just move on. So I think creativity is important, right? But at the same time, Pinky gave a lot of examples. So I'm just questioning the audience and Pinky, it's just on a lighter note. Do you remember the kurta more or do you remember the talk more? Right? So that's a very good question that we need to ask. If you remember the kurta more than the message, then is creativity jarring? This is just a question. All right. Now moving on to the second statement, when it comes to transitions, again, transitions are important. There should not be something very jarring. But at the same time, transitions, I feel, is something that is overused in Toastmasters. Okay. So obviously in a story, you start, you go to the middle, you go to the end, and it flows in a certain way. Okay. A lot of people, so I feel that, see, one more thing, this is something, there are many tools, right? Transitions, body language, voice modulation, humor. Now, if you have so many things in your mind and start writing a talk, the talk is going to fail, right? So all these things have to be learned through experience. Whether creativity, again, he fell on the floor, you gave an example, but that had an absolute reason. If you can go and see Darren LeCroy, he wanted to show that how long you're staying on the floor. That made sense, right? Mohammad Katani, he pulled the cigarette up. He wanted to create a wonderful opening, and his speech was also really good. So if it adds value, makes sense. But all these things we should remove, and our only goal is to write. Okay. And over a period of time, we will know whether the transitions are right, whether the transitions are wrong, whether it is something is very jarring. So all these tools you have to read, you have to really implement, and you have to then let go. So my guru of public speaking, Aditya Maheshwaran, I think he was part of District 98. He gave the example of a pole vaulter. So you run with a pole vault, then you leave it, right? Only then you can jump over the bar. So like that in public speaking, transitions, body language, how to end, all this is something that we must learn, but at one point of time we must leave. So transitions is good, but do not keep that in mind while writing a talk.
True. So let's make a transition to Pinky right now. I want to, and like Ganesh says, you have only 30 seconds. Give your take on this.
Okay, transitions is like telling the audience, hey, one point is over, next point is going to come. Now, how, if you are wondering how you can give the transitions, it can be a sentence you repeat again and again after a point is over, like Dhananjaya did. Or my favorite one is when my point is over, I ask a question and then I move to the next point. That is my favorite transitions. So yes, transitions gives clarity according to me, because if the book is divided into chapters, you know that, okay, now this is the flow and this is what going to happen. So yes, for me, I believe, of course, as Ganesh said, that is the last thing you worry about, but that is something you need to take care of. Or even you can use your stage for transition, like Ramona did. So there are many ways. And with that, Shaukat, over to you.
You went to 32 seconds, so I don't know what to do. But anyway, we'll go forward. Yes, I totally agree with you. It's stringing the pieces together and giving, and making the jigsaw puzzle look whole and giving you a proper picture. So I think that makes a lot of sense what you said and goes forward out there. So after let's say we made a speech, you made the rough draft of speech, and then we start whittling it. It's a piece of art, like you said. It's like a sculpture. So you actually have to refine it. How do you actually do it, Ganesh? How do you refine your speeches? What's the process?
The best response or the people who give you the best advice is the crowd, right? So this is something that I will go by old school book. The more you practice in front of a perfect crowd, okay? So there are multiple ways by which you can practice. Number one, we practice our speeches in our mind, which is good but not great, because what happens in the mind and what happens on the stage is completely different. The best way to go is to go to multiple clubs and talk. Okay. So when I started off in Toastmasters, I had some time with me. So every project, I used to give it twice or thrice. I used to refine it and do it. Even now, I do that because see, I'm part of a club called MTM. I think most of you would know. There are 50 to 75 members and sometimes 100 members who come. So you want to give a very good talk, right? Because it's 100. So I give it once or twice, and the audience will tell you whether this joke works, whether this point that I made works. And the other thing that you can do is you can record yourself every time. That is also something that I don't do, but it is very important, because once you record yourself and see yourself on stage, you can see what mistakes you're making, what you're doing well. So the best practice is in front of a crowd and take their feedback, come home, make changes, and keep delivering it time and again. So try to do it as much as possible, but at the same time, you should not get bored of your talk, because when you're delivering it, either a project speech or a contest speech, you should not get bored of it. You should have that excitement that, oh my God, this line is coming, this joke is coming. So that is very important. Okay. So practice as much as possible.
True. I think it's very, very valid point that, and a very valid point too. You know, in contests, what happens is when people are going around the place, you get jaded, and they're saying that when you reach the end, when you're actually giving your performance, you are already over the top. You're peaked and you're gone out. So you got to match that and go. So what are the other elements that you think enhance your speech?
You're asking me?
Yes, Ganesh, you're still on.
Can you repeat the question, please?
I'm saying, what are the different elements that you use to enhance your speech?
Okay, so number one is practice. Then the other one, I take the help of a mentor, somebody who's senior. I make sure that I take help from that person. That's about it. Yes, practice and take mentoring. That's what do about.
Yeah, so
Nothing
you
more,
go to a person like Pinky, in fact.
Yes, anybody who
Okay.
can give me that line or that piece of advice.
Because
Okay.
you know, Pinky is always she's such a big mentor for everybody. So that
Right.
yeah. But
Okay,
there
just
are
one.
always
I'll just give one. If we have time, I can just give one incident.
your
Before
favorite 30 seconds.
I'll make it 10.
Okay.
Before the district contest, there was one guy called Jarvis from Goa. He told, add this joke. Okay, I added that joke and I got laughter. So last minute, you have so much stress. So
True.
just that was a mentor who helped me out. Right, OD.
True. Good show here. And it's so nice of you to say, because even the person is not as senior as you, you're still taken the feedback and you had the grace and the humbleness to say he's a mentor. Thank you. It's a very nice thought from your side. There are always two elements to a speech, right? It is what you say and then how you say it. So, Pinky, as a TEDx speaker, how often do you actually practice your presentations before going on stage?
All right. So to answer that, let me begin with how I start with. First of all, I'm from the old school. The first thing I do is I have a notebook, I have pen, I write my thoughts, I write it. Now, once I'm satisfied that okay, this is going to be my talk, that is when I put it in the Word document. Now, coming to TEDx talk, my 18-minute TEDx talk, I must have written it minimum 18 times.
Wow.
Written it, rewritten it, written it, rewritten it. And not that. Coming to how did I practice? So once I was very clear, then I started working on opening, closing. I started underlining, hey, what are my important lines? Why? Because I wanted to memorize the opening, I wanted to memorize the closing, and I wanted to memorize the important lines. That was clear. Then when I have my whole talk written, I have three versions of it. One, sometimes you don't have time. So one version is I just have the bullet points. Second version is I'm in mood, I have time, I'll read my whole talk. Third version is I record the talk, not video, audio. Night when I'm sleeping, I'm relaxed and I don't have anything else to do, I'll just listen to myself. So I'm doing nothing, I'm relaxed, but yet I'm practicing.
Mm.
So that's what I do. My practice session has three versions, one full speech, one, and I read a lot. I mean, instead of delivering, for me, I read my speech and again. Then I start delivering it once I'm very comfortable with it.
Wow. I think, and you know, this is what I understand is the people tend to see the finished product at the end. It's like I go to a restaurant and I see a wonderful dish out there and I enjoy that dish out there without thinking what goes behind that. And knowing that my culinary skills are only extended to heating up water, you don't realize how much you actually need, the work and practice that goes behind that. And you rightly mentioned this. I'm sure Ganesh also speaks about the same thing, that it takes a lot to do and to make a finished product, which comes in out here. I think we say that in Toastmasters too, right? The three P's. What? Practice, 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 which actually makes it all of us, you know, jive together. And yeah, it's a super, it's really great, great views which you have out here, you know. And let's take a final view on your thoughts on how we should actually, you know, the whole techniques in writing a speech, because each one has a different way of writing a speech. So do you have any tips which I would like our viewers to know about and to help them in writing their speech?
This is for me.
Yep.
Yes. All right. So now the writing is very difficult. So most toughest form. Speaking is easy. Table topics, obviously, it's difficult to think on top of hat, but you can just let loose. Writing a talk is extremely difficult. And that too, we are not full-time Toastmasters or we are not full-time writers. So how do I do is, I try to keep a specific time. Okay, I try to get that topic and write. Okay, obviously the versions change over a period of time, but if you have a specific time, day, and if you write, that would work out well. Inspiration would come at that time, right? Because that's most toughest part. Even now I struggle with. You can see my first draft and the second draft, the 10th draft or the 18th draft, like Nikki told. Obviously, there'll be a world of change. So it's very important for you to get into the habit. Take that specific time and write down stuff. So that's very, very important. Okay. It's very important to have targets. Okay. As speakers, very, very important to have targets because that is only going to help you improve. So have a specific period of time and write your talk. Only then you will be able to finish it. That's it.
True. True. Pinky, I would like you to suggest your tips for people who are not as, you know, accomplished as you are, people who are more starting off and going on. And what are the tips that you would give them to allow them to actually go forward? You know, that's a good takeaway for them.
So, first of all, I strongly believe, and trust me, everyone, if I can do it, you all can do it easily. I'm the same person who was not able to speak on my first table topics even for 30 seconds. So never, never, ever doubt yourself. That is the first thing I would like to say. Because if I didn't believe in myself, if I would have given up, I would have never reached different platforms. So that is the first tip. Coming to writing and coming to delivering, as I said, your comfort is of utmost important because if you're not comfortable while delivering, it would be visible. So for delivery, be comfortable, do what suits you, do what best you can do. Second thing, while writing, This is something I've learned from the world champion Darren LaCroix and Mark Brown. They've said something which is actually stuck in my mind, and it's that have clarity. Clarity related to what you're going to say, what your message is. Now, why? Because if you have clarity, you will be filter out what exactly would be required in your speech. And how to understand if you have clarity? They say that if you can identify your speech purpose, if you can say your speech purpose in 10 words or less, that means you have a clear purpose. And never fear writing. For example, I've also written speeches in Toastmasters 5 to 7 speeches. Ideally, it should be 700 words. I love writing. I'm someone who loves writing. I can go on. I've even written a speech of 1500 words. And then I struggled to bring it down to 1200, then 900, then 700. But in that process, what happens? Only the relevant, only the best stuff stays. So try. Just keep on trying. Explore. And you never know what works for you. And in that process, you'll find your strengths. Shaukat.
Super, super. Thank you very much. I'm sure there's so many takeaways you give, both of you. And I would just tell everybody that not only do you understand with these fantastic people what you're supposed to say, you hear them speak right now in front of them, in front of us, see the body language, see the clarity, hear the clarity of voice which they give. When Pinky is saying 1, 2, 3, these are all things which we admire because this shows the wholesome of how a speech is presented. Now let's go on to all our viewers, and I'm sure they'll be having questions which they want to say. So please put your questions down on the chat box so that we can take it up depending on time. Now, and here user has a point out here, and he says that sub-speakers, including me, narrate an essay. We describe a topic in detail. The speech is lost to listeners after some months. How do we mutate it to make it memorable? Who would like to take that? Ganesh, Pinky? Ganesh?
Yes,
let's go.
I'll take it. All right. See, if you are giving a project speech, then you don't have to worry about being memorable because the idea is to it has to fit the project guidelines. As you told, I think you made a very valid point. You have to be memorable. So as I gave a few examples, a good tagline, be a player. People may forget my talk, but I'm sure they would remember be a player. Or Pinky gave an example of Darren LaCroix just going on the floor and staying there for a minute. That is, just imagine the stress levels. So that is one aspect in body language. Or Dhananjay Hethiarachi, the best line ever. I see something new, but I don't know what it is. So this is one tagline. So if you can come up with many stuff, it is just that you have to think over it, right? And you have to do it. Again, do not go with an aspect of being memorable because you would fail. Right? It would always, what would happen? You'd become loud. So if it comes well and good. So that is the most important aspect.
Yeah. True. Makes sense. Pinky?
For me, sometimes, rightly, it happens that you have to give information. Some speeches, some projects require where you have to give information. But how do you give that information? See what you can share, personal anecdotes, what experiences you can share related to that theory. I believe, user, that will make it interesting. That will help people stay connected and memorable. So fine, we all have so many experiences. Even every theory will connect to some experience. Never forget to add that experience, is what I would say.
True. I think you all made very valid points. I would also add to say that audience relevance, because very often we want to give a speech which we think about and it resonates with us, but it may not resonate with the audience. So if you give a speech about a topic which doesn't resonate with your audience, it's very unlikely that they would have memories of it take backs from it. So I think with all these things, it's not just one part of it. There's many facets to a speech which you have to take care to make a speech memorable, right? And we know the standard stuff, the opening, the closing, and all that stuff, which also comes in out here. So that's great. So come on, guys, we need some more questions from you. We got 80 people watching us, but nobody has anything to say. All right, here it goes. And it says that it's often felt that the title should reflect the speech and its message. Yet others feel that there should be a bit of mystery in the title. What is your take? Now, Ganesh, came up with in one of your 30 seconds, and he said that be a player. Now, is that sharing exactly what you're going to talk about, or did you have a mystery?
So ideally, it is said that do not reveal whatever. See, for instance, just do it. If that is a speech title, right? People will switch off. That's very important. So have something that makes the people curious, but don't focus so much time on your speech title than the speech, right? So it is.
But Ganesh, don't we often say that, it's the first impression that counts, and when you get the speech title, that is the first impression?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I've seen speakers who the last 30 seconds have completely changed whatever they have to say. They've been bored. They've just roamed around the stage, lethargic body language, but in the last 30 seconds, they've changed it.
True.
So yes, there should be some amount of mystery to it. But again, let's not focus a lot on that. Okay? It's very important to focus on the content, but try to keep some amount of mystery, because if you give, just do it, you can do it. All that I've seen titles that what is it, people will switch off in the first 30 seconds and they won't listen. Okay.
Pinky?
Yes, I totally agree with what Ganesh is saying. Even I always try my level best that title should not reveal anything. I have kept title like K Sarasara. But what is it going to say? I have kept title like Chingari the Spark. What is it going to say? It doesn't reveal much, but it creates curiosity. And title is the last thing I finalize in my speech. Once I have everything written, that is the last thing that I do. So yes, whatever Ganesh says, I echo that.
True. And would you think that should you start a speech or writing a speech by thinking about what is the message you want to give and then going back upwards, or give a speech and see what message fits that?
Message first. Message first.
For me, story first, and message comes with it. But
so you all both have different ideas. I mean, Ganesh says that first think of the message, and Pinky says first think of the story.
Because if I mean, this is my personal take. If I am feeling that this story is very close to me, that means I've learned something very deep from it. So that is the reason, for me, it's always story first. For me, it's always my experience first.
Very good. I have a different viewpoint. I think of the message first. What is the message that I want to give? Right? So let's different viewpoints.
I think it's not an agree to disagree. I think we both agree on the same thing. Give a good speech, whichever way you reach it. It's just two different paths. Okay. So let's move forward from there and say, we've got Madhavan out here who says, has it ever happened that you forgot your lines or had a moment of suddenly being lost? What do you do in such situations? I raise my hand. I have it all the time. What about you guys?
Can I answer that first?
Yeah, please.
You know what? This has happened to me in a contest.
Wow.
And I froze. That was the first time I participated in a contest. But that I learned a lesson. Now, what I do, still my memory troubles me a lot. I ask the question. Now, if I'm forgetting, okay, I don't know. Okay, so what next? Now the audience thinks I'm asking them, but actually I'm asking myself, hey, Pinky, what next? And whatever answers come to my mind, I just go ahead with it.
This was really funny.
It happened
Right.
to
This is something, and it has worked for me. So you all can also give it a try.
That's very good. I think that was a very funny line. Great. All right. So with regard to two aspects, I generally don't like to forget my lines in Toastmasters because we are given 7 minutes A contest, we just have to go. So you forget a speech because you have not practiced a lot. So very simple. I'll just tell you, when I was contesting, that was pre-COVID, and let's take pre-COVID and post-COVID. Every word used to be on place. It not looking like a nursery rhyme, but it used to be very, very well prepared. But post-COVID, because of work commitments, I'm not able to give that much time. And I can see the satisfaction level internally is not there. So,
Yeah.
and how do you, what happens if you forget? You have to be cool enough to go ahead. In the sense, you should not be so caught on that you can't move on. You should be able to improvise. So that comes with experience. There is no answer to that. That comes with experience. So please practice. That's the most important thing. And memorize your lines.
True. True. Let's take one more question from Toastmaster Anita out here, who also happens to be a mentee. And she keeps screaming at me every time. Why do I always have to give a message? Can't I give a topic which is just fun? So I leave it to the experts.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Everything doesn't have to have a message, right? Like you can just give a talk which is absolutely fun. That is my goal right now. No messages, no motivation, no giving any advice. This is just an educational imparting session, but I don't want to give any advice. So completely yes, you can do that.
And that's
absolutely yes.
And I like that advice which you're given right now. Anyway, Pinky, you.
So yes, for me, you should have, you should enjoy giving speech. And sometimes if your speech is, for example, I have given speech on a trip to Udaipur. Now that is, of course, is going to be a fun. Now there are times when not even message, you can just drop a question, leave them with a question, which can make them think. So it's not always message. It can also be giving a food for thought, encouraging them, say, hey, this is what I did. What about you? Even that's kind of a message. And you're leaving it open to them to take it however they want to.
I think you're right, because what you basically want to do is make sure they at least get a takeaway, right, from that, and then go forward in whichever way you can make it. So I think we had that, and I think we're running time. We run out of time on Q&A. So let's move forward. And in true Toastmaster tradition, we have an evaluator for our panel discussion, and who will be sharing her views on what we did well and what we can do better. So let's welcome Toastmaster Sakshi Srivastava for her feedback on this session. Yes, Sakshi, nice smile. Let's go. Come on.
Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Shaukat, for accepting me to be your evaluator for such a wonderful session. And thank you, Toastmaster Sunita, for allowing me to do that. Thanks for the risk you've taken already. Thank you so much, everyone, for being so attentive to such a wonderful session that we had today. And I'm so thankful again to distinguished Toastmaster Shaukat, distinguished Toastmaster Ganesh Iyer, and of course, our distinguished Toastmaster Pinky, for putting up every point in such a crisp, time-bound, and very much, in drilling manner into our minds. So coming to first, like always, the CRC method. So firstly, I would like to say that Toastmaster Shaukat, the introduction to the theme was fabulous, because when you actually vocabulary makes a lot of impact into what is coming up next. So you used 3 words which I'm sure everyone could relate to: speech writing stress, procrastination, and sleepless nights. All of those things were so relatable to me as an audience that yes, I faced that when I was starting my journey into Toastmasters. And today, trust me, I'm still nervous. I haven't gotten over it in the past as many years as I've been here. This also made me realize that you are pointing out to a certain problem, and this panel discussion that follows will provide me solutions. So firstly, I would like to talk of the wonderful way in which you moderated the discussion today. First thing was that you gave 10 questions. Few were common to both and few were very specific to your panelists. Second was, and those were wonderful questions. And most importantly, they were open-ended questions. So we could have subjective long answers from our panelists about the details and examples that they wanted to share personally. Second was, you had a brilliant way of wrap and merge and wrap, because every point that our panelists said, and they were moving from one point to another in that answer, you would just compile and bring it back. Example, when you brought in that perspective part in your second question itself, when you said, I was just looking up and am I inside or are they outside? So that was a wonderful way. Another thing was when you brought back the thought from our DTM Ganesh to open mic. He had started with the open mic topic and he took it to humor, stand-up comedy, but you brought it back for the audience's memorability of what they are hearing. So that was again brilliantly done. What I also loved was one of Toastmaster Ganesh took the permission to speak on a question that Pinky had already answered, and he was already given a different question, but he asked for permission, and he was so, warm. You just allowed, you never gave that, no, you give your answer. So that was a wonderful way of moderating it. I love that. Another thing was that I loved was that the last question that you had from the audience. It was a question about whether the story first or the message first, or which is the priority. So there was not a conflict, but there was a contrast in the answers you got from the panelists. And the way you handled was wonderful. It made me look forward to more of your panel discussions as a moderator. Now I would like to come to the solutions that you have provided through this panel discussion. And trust me, audience, I think I'm speaking my everybody's mind here. Okay, maybe mine. First thing was, the solution I got was audience awareness. Second was perspectives on tweaking the original thought to finesse by rewriting, and making sure that it is hitting with the audience. Third was be comfortable. Whether it's content, don't copy. Whether it's delivery, don't copy. Another takeaway. Then Pinky talked of the transition, and it was so relevant for me because she said, I ask a question and then I transition to another topic. Going to the benter, having a good tagline, a curiosity generating title, and of course, speaking your mind. If you ever freeze during your speech, which talks of presence of mind. So I really appreciate the kind of questions that you have put so that we could find these solutions to all the problems that you mentioned we had in our minds. Coming to the recommendations, actually not many, but just adding to what was already discussed, two things. One is we could also have incorporated a question for how a member who has maybe completed 2 parts or 1 part and is still nervous because there is a different audience. How to write a speech for a different audience is something that can be useful for many members who have been Toastmasters for 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5. And second thing is, we may put up questions that are specific to the panelists and just a few that are common so that we don't get repetitive answers. Like many times we found that the answers were, I agree, I have the same thought. That is the reason the last question brought a lot of light to me, because that was a contrasting answer to that one question. So the questions can be framed in a certain manner that we get different answers, different perspectives. And again, coming back to the wonderful body language and the softer skills part that you showcased today as a moderator. First was your poise, your warmth, the humor that you injected, interactive with not just the panelists, but during your audience interaction, your last Q&A session. you encouraged the audience to put up more questions, and like a good moderator, keeping the flow running, you had your own question and you did ask a few questions in the name of another member because you know you had that question ready with you, or one of your mentee. Finally, the way you introduced your panelists, the way you conducted the entire session, it has all been so helpful, not just to the new members. It's a reminder to all of us, old members, I mean, members who have been for this long here, of how to keep polishing. Because the final takeaway is practice. It's not just in front of your own audience giving it once, but in front of multiple kinds of audiences before you actually feel satisfied that, yes, I have learned the art of speech writing and delivery at the same time. Thank you so much. And with that, I would like to hand over back to our moderator, distinguished Toastmaster Shocker. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Wow, wow, wow. I mean, if you really needed a masterclass as to how to evaluate, I think Pinky, would you agree that this is fantastic, the way she went about it, the thought process that went through it, the commendations as well as the recommendations. I really thank you, Toastmaster Sakshi. It's a big takeaway for me, and I agree. I should also put up the heart like Pinky has done. That yes, super. Let's all just give a little thank you, a little reaction from your. Let's just give a little clap. Okay, come on. Let's see how many of you will do that. Yes, that's nice, 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 nice. Glad to see that everyone's now putting on their view. I can see a lot more people. Though I would love to see many more people, see them in person, in face. So let's put your videos on. Come on. Now you can show that. Show yourselves. Show a nice smile in this. I think it's great. So I think it was a wonderful, for me at least, it was a wonderful, insightful, and inspirational session. Really, true gems of wisdom shared by us from these panelists. And this is based literally on their deep and varied knowledge, not just something tell us because it sounds good, willing to put their heads forward and say, I believe in this. This is the way to go. Super. I learned a lot from this, and I'm sure all of us present are enriched by the deep knowledge that they've really imparted and shared with us. A big thank you to our panelists, DTM Pinky Barus and DTM Ganesh Iyer. Thank you so much for joining us, being with us, and sharing your thoughts with us. I would also like to thank the district, and particularly DTM Sunita Vinod, who is our district PQD and has organized this whole event, brought it all together for all of us. Thank you, Toastmaster Dhairya, for being the Zoom master, and Toastmaster Anita as the timer, both from Sobo Toastmasters Mumbai, which is also my home club. And finally, a big thank you to the audience for coming in this evening, joining in this evening in the quest to learn and improve. So I'm Shaukat Lokhandwala, your moderator for this evening, leaving you and wishing you on this episode of Wednesday Wisdom, and signing off by saying, continue learning and become better communicators. Thanks, guys. So we can keep the chat open if somebody likes to just talk. I'm sure Pinky and